Welcome to Temple Builders Carpentry. Temple Builders, we problem solvers. Temple Builders, safety first. Okay, Temple Builders, today we talking about post and beam construction. And we're also talking about timber frame construction, okay? Now here's a drawing of post and beam construction right here. And here's a drawing of timber frame construction. Now we're gonna come back to timber frame construction. Let's talk about post and beam, right? First off, post and beam construction methods were made part of North American culture as early as 1620 when English settlers began arriving. The spaces between the posts and roof beams were filled with wattle, which is an intertwined mixture of twigs, reeds, and branches that was covered in mud. All material for the building were found locally, with the exception of square-cut nails, which were imported from England until the settlers were able to produce their own. A revival of post and beam construction began in the 1940s and continues today. Okay, now, there's basically three types of post and beam construction, okay? Now, post and beam, which this is an example of, was sometimes also called plank and beam, okay, because they use 2-inch thick planks, tongue and groove planks on the flooring. You see down here, I got the floor planks. They use these tongue and groove 2-inch thick planks on the flooring, and they also used it right here on the roof, okay? Now, also, the number 2 type of post and beam construction is timber frame. This is an example of timber frame over here, but I'm gonna come back to this. Let's come back over here to post and beam. Now, an example, and the third one that I don't have is post frame. Post frame was also called post frame was also called pole construction. Okay, now I'm gonna do another video on pole construction or post frame. Okay, now let's take a look at our post and beam construction right here. Okay, now in order to be post and beam, the lumber had to be at least a 4x4. So these are at least 4x4 posts right here that's on the exterior walls, okay? Now, if you can look closely right here, you can see the 4x4 post is sitting, let's say, on a 2x4. It's sitting on a 2x4 right here. It's the bottom plate, okay? Now, this 2x4 is sitting on top of a beam right here. These beams are spaced at 4 feet on center, okay? So you got the beam which is sitting on your concrete foundation. And on top of the beam, you have your bottom plate. And on top of the bottom plate sits your post. Your posts come up. Now you got a top plate up here. Now the way that this post and beam construction is constructed is called transverse roof beams right here. The rafters, which would normally be called rafters in balloon framing or platform framing, these are beams because of the size of your lumber. They're called timbers, right? So this guy right here, this is called transverse roof beams right here, which these beams run from your exterior wall, right, to your right here. This is called your ridge beam, okay? Now this ridge beam is supported, you see right here, by this post, okay? Now a ridge beam is a structural or a load-bearing member, okay? As opposed to, let's say in platform framing, you got a ridge board. That ridge board is there just to align your rafters, you know, keep them square. It's not used for a structural member. That ridge board is a non-structural member, okay? Just wanted to say that. Let me continue now. Okay, so this type of roof right here is called transverse roof beams, okay? Now, if your beams are running, you can have several beams running like this beam right here, this middle beam, and you can have another beam right here on this post right here running the same way, and another beam right here running the same way, and take out your transverse roof beams and replace them with longitudinal. That's what it's called, longitudinal, okay, roof beams. Okay, so you have more than this right here. You have one on this side, and however many else you need. and they'll be on top of your post, okay? So with post and beam, the basic framework of a building consists of vertical posts, okay? These are your vertical posts and horizontal or sloping beams, okay? So right down here, these are horizontal. It's a horizontal beam. Right here, what would be called your rafters, these are sloping beams, or like I said, transverse roof beams, okay? Now, if you look at this blew up section right here, this how your traverse roof beams would be sitting on your ridge beam. You see how it's notched out right there to accommodate the edge of that beam right there, okay? That ridge beam. So you'll notch it out right here, and you'll also use metal connectors, okay? Basically at a lot of the key points. So you definitely have either a metal scrap right here going along the edge of this beam, or you can put a nailing plate, okay, on this side that's joining the joint, and put one on the other side. And also, okay, instead of having your beam sitting on top of your ridge beam like this, you will have them coming straight into it, just like platform framing. You can have also your traverse roof beams coming into the face of your ridge beam right there. But if you did that too, you have to fasten it with joist hangers. Yeah, you can use joist hangers for that connection right there. All right, so let's look at this a little bit more. You got right here, you got your door, and also the difference. Well, I say this: post and beam and timber framing, they got a lot of similarities, right? As far as using timbers and beams, right? But they got a lot of differences too. Now, one difference is this would be used, or this would be joined together using nails, okay? As opposed to timber frame. Let's talk about timber frame a little bit, okay? Now, before the advent of modern sawmills and steel mills, hand-hewn beams. Okay, now if you hand-hewn a beam, you can use some called adze, and that's spelled A-D-Z-E, okay, S, or you can use a broad axe, which that would be very impressive. Now, I bet a lot of these people that was cutting these trees and hewing these beams were also able to build these structures, or build these timber frame structures or post and beam structures. And that took a lot of craftsmanship. But let's keep on going. Oh, what I want to say about the hand-hewn beams, of course, a tree is normally round, right? So if you're going to hand-hewn a beam, you can use a broad axe. I've seen someone stand on a tree before and then hew it that way. What you're basically doing is you're squaring the sides off, making them relatively flat, okay, or rough, it's kind of flattening, okay, your sides, your four sides, okay. Now, people still use these beams today, these hand-hewn beams. It definitely give your residence a natural look to it. And only hand-hewn beams have those distinctive marks on it, okay? It's different from machine sawn lumber marks. But let me continue on. Okay, so before the advent of modern sawmills and steel mills, hand-hewn beams and wood pegs were less expensive than hand-sawn lumber and forged nails. Building frames were handcrafted from large timbers hewn from whole trees. The careful craftsmanship and avoidance of rust-prone fasteners gave these frames great strength and resilience. Okay, now this right here is called a bent design. Okay, now when I had did some research and why it was called bent, if you know anybody in the in the audience know, why it was called bench, or any carpenters know why it was called bench, you can write it in the comments section. I came across a little article that talked about, it went back to a word that described a bent tree. Okay, they would take this bent tree and then they would saw it in half, and you would make an A-frame out of that bent tree. Okay. However, that was just one source I ran up on. If anybody knows if that's correct, you can write it in the comments section. Now, this is a bent design, and this particular design is called a king post. Okay, they got other designs as well. You got queen post. You got some called a gambrel post. Now, this is distinctive design right here. You see these, it's called a knee brace. Okay, when you see these members like this is one indication that you're dealing with a timber frame structure. However, was more impressive to me is these timber frame structures. You see these little zeros I got right here. These are pegs. Okay, timber frame structure are joined together with joints like mortise and tenon joints. Look at this joint right here at the rafter. This is a tongue and fork. This is your tongue, this is your fork. Okay, you're making these notches. Okay, it's simple joinery. It's kind of simple, especially as opposed to something else I need to do a video on, which would be Japanese carpentry, which would have more complex or intricate joinery. Okay. This seems a little bit more simple, but it's durable and it's resilient and it works. So we're not using nails here, okay? So this is definitely a work of art to me, okay? This type of framing is very impressive, and also carpenters that specialize in this, you have to go through rigorous schooling, okay, to understand all these joints, but it's very impressive. One of my goals is to have a home built like this. Okay. Now, like I said, okay, this is a king post, and then this type of framing, you can frame it up on the ground. Okay. So, like I said before, you got tongue and fork, you got mortise and tenon, all these different type of joints. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Okay, so you can construct this on the ground, and then you can raise it up. If they're bigger, if you got bigger ones, you might have to use a lift or a crane. Now you can make 2 of these, depending on how big your structure is. You can make 2 of these, you can make 3 of these, 4 of these, and you can join them together with something called common purlins. Okay, you use these common purlins to join these different bents together. All right. I also want to say, yeah, with post and beam and timber frame construction, you can use solid beams, okay, or you can use engineered wood, okay, which can be either a built-up beam, a glulam beam, a LVL, which is laminated veneer lumber, okay, or anything like that. So if you like this information, hit the like button, subscribe, okay, become my apprentice, Temple Build.